Again, I'm going to title this video Ich bin nackt because I am nackt or naked except for my hat and my sunglasses. But anyway, I'm going to expand upon a few things, comment upon a few things about Laura's latest video. Her YouTube channel is Nigella for me. Now, she was talking about reincarnation. She was saying she didn't know if she believed it or not. Another thing she's coming on, it's known as what if we come back as an animal, maybe as a bug and get squashed, or a food animal? Transmigration of souls? Yeah, I don't personally believe that. I believe that when we come back, if we do come back, if we do reincarnate, now I believe that if you really purify your soul, if you really make a hard effort to balance other karma, you might have a chance, you might evolve beyond the karma, the karmic cycle. That's kind of an objective of hardcore Buddhists to evolve beyond the karmic cycle, the cycle of coming back. You can advance to higher astral planes and not need to reincarnate back as human. I believe that that's part of my personal belief, that if you purify yourself enough, that's one of the arguments with the early church. Now that if the early church had figured out that if let's digress a bit. Now that Jesus had believed in and taught reincarnation in the early church, and it got taken out because the church figured out that if you knew you were responsible for yourself, that believing in Jesus wasn't part of the game. I mean, you can believe in Jesus. You can say, well, I accept his teachings and all that, but unless you balance your karma, unless you, well, I'll cover that in another video. But I said the early church figured out that if you knew that you could get into heaven, you could go through an afterlife without the church. They figured that, they took reincarnation out of the church because they figured, they needed it in there to get you to go into church. I think you figure where I'm going. I'm not phrasing that, but I think you get what I'm saying. But anyway, let's see, where's that going? Because I'm delving out the weeds. Well, let me get back to transmigration of soul. So you come back as a food animal. There was a guy that this guy was a vegetarian. He said, but if it were someone's karmic punishment to come back as a food animal, and they did get eaten, isn't not helping them balance their karma by getting eaten? I don't know how good an argument that is, but that was his. He was just using it. But anyway, there's been a handful of people that have. I might cover this again, but there's been a handful of people. The little 3-year-old boy. This was at ABC News. This little 3-year-old boy. He's an adult now, but he had enough sufficient memory of having been a World War II fighter pilot, die in a when his plane was shot down. He had sufficient knowledge of his previous life. He was actually able to go to the widow was still alive. I'm sure she's dead by now because it's been 20-some years, but he was actually able to convince the widow of the knowledge he had of of the widow's her husband that had died in World War II. He's able to go to her and convince her that he was a reincarnation. So it's just very, very interesting, very, very fascinating story. And one of the chief designers of the Titanic had memories of having sunk in gone down with the Titanic. That's one thing that Nigella, for me, Laura was talking about. She said she's got a fear of the ocean, which you might want to do. Now, there's various ways of you can either use some of the guided self-hypnosis. There are individuals that will regress you back. You can pay them to regress you back to a life. Tell them you want to just go back some of the lives that maybe you did die. She said she's got a fear of the ocean. And yeah, maybe you were in a shipwreck, or maybe you had an aircraft go down in the ocean. Just an interesting thought that, yeah, that's possible. Just tossing it out there. Now, it's not just about these deja vu feelings. Now, I'm going to use the argument that Dick Sutphin would use in some of his audio tracks. I'll get to Dick Sutphin on some. I've covered him before, and I'll get to him again on future videos that I make. But anyway, he was saying that let's say you're going to visit Hawaii, you're planning a vacation there, and when you get there, everything looks familiar. You think that the past life you might have lived in Hawaii. Another argument that you'd planned this vacation for months, and your mental energy was drawing you to the Hawaiian Islands, and that while you were asleep, um, we all go out of body during deep sleep. All of us, no matter what. That's just part of the our what way our existence works. But anyway, while you were out, asleep, you visited Hawaiian Islands because your mental energy was drawing you there. You didn't really remember on a conscious level, but on a subconscious level, you remember having been there in your astral body, and that comes up as kind of more of a deja vu feeling. Just tossing it out there, well, that's kind of interesting. I'm going to expand upon this again. Now, there's something, I don't think I said this here. I've made this video about 10 times before I finally got it right. A lot of times I'll do that. A lot of times I'll have to, sit down and make this video, dozen or 20 times before I finally get to where I kind of halfway comfortable with it. And I don't know if I said this before. If I did, forgive me. But it's a quote from Jesus somewhere in the Bible. It goes, verily I say, ye must be born again. You must re-enter your mama's belly as spirit. And if that's not reincarnation, I don't know what is. But most of reincarnation was taken out of the Bible at the Council of Nicaea. Okay. Leave us with Das Leben ist ein Abenteuer. Let's all stay spooky and interesting. Ciao. Y vaya con Dios. If anybody doesn't know, that's Spanish with go with God. Bye.